Hi, besties. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, my name is Ariel. Welcome. And today we're actually going to be doing a music review of Jimin's debut album, Face. Now, it is going to change from the way that I was doing EXO's review just slightly. Well, not slightly, dramatically. I am no longer going to be showing myself listening to the music as I was doing in the beginning. That's because it did get copyright claimed. I don't know how much I can show of the song or whatever on YouTube. So that is going to change. You're not going to see me listening to the music. Unfortunately, that is just not going to be able to happen. But I will at least show 10 to 15 seconds of the song before going into that individual song on the album. Another thing is I'm going to go a little bit more into the meaning of the songs, whether it be what the artist says the meanings are of the song or my interpretation of the song. So obviously though, for albums that are a little bit older, I may have already listened to it, so I'm just doing a review of it. Like Jimin's Face album, I didn't wait till this last week to listen to it. Like I definitely didn't do that. But that is just really what's changing with the format. And then after the meeting, I'm actually gonna go into how I feel about the album overall and if I have any favorite songs, etc., etc. So before we get into all that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Please, because the algorithm helps it out. So Jimin's album Face was released on March 24th, 2023, and it had 6 digital release songs and then 7 songs on the album. So we're starting off with number 1, which is Face Off, number 2, which is An Enter the Dive, number 3, which is Like Crazy, number 4, which is Alone, number 5, which is Set Me Free Part 2, and then number 6, which is Like Crazy English version. There is an unofficial official song, which I will get to during the review. That is, if you have bought the physical version of the album, it is on there. So let's start off and go on about the meaning of Big Hit Entertainment. If you don't know, is the label that BTS is under, Jimin is under. They released a statement that I am looking down just to make sure I can say exactly what they put out. But what they said was Jimin facing himself head on as he gets ready for his next step as a solo artist. So Jimin facing himself. And I'm going to use that as a way that I have been interpreting the album. There are, to put that out there, that there could be double, triple, quadruple meanings of the songs. I understand that. But based on what Big Hit has put out about his album and what it is about, I am going to take that as face value that Jimin is facing himself. That's just what it is. The first song on the album is called Face Off. It's fucking on and down, down, break it down, break it down. And how I really interpret this song, because there really wasn't much about what Jimin thought about the song, but I digress. I really interpret this as Jimin talking about a version of himself who he was not particularly happy with or proud of, whether that be an old version of himself or a version of himself that manifested during the pandemic. Because as a lot of these guys' albums were produced during the pandemic or during that time frame, and they're drawing a lot of inspiration from that time frame. So I'm guessing it's either a version of himself that existed before the pandemic and he wasn't particularly proud of, or a version of himself that manifests during the pandemic era. And he talks about trying to drown out that version of himself with alcohol and trying to basically overcome that. is what Face Off, at least for me, I have been interpreting it that way. Moving on, we have the interlude. Y'all, I literally don't even know how to voice over it. It's a bunch of panting and walking around. Dun, 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 dun. Like I don't know how to. Yeah, just go listen to the song. Dive. Now he did talk about this interlude during a Rolling Stone interview that he did. I think if I remember correctly, I'll link the Rolling Stone interview down below. It is a paid service. I was able to read it for free because I haven't used all my free looks yet. But he really talked about wanting something that was going to be a transition between Face Off and the next song, because in his words, Face Off is very angry, very rebellious, and he wanted something to smooth the transition from that song to Like Crazy, which is the next song on the album. And he said also that it was supposed to feel like being lost and wandering, which I kind of interpret almost as if like trying to find himself or trying to find a version of himself that he's happy with, especially during the pandemic, because he said he drew a lot of this during the pandemic. So I'm gonna take this at face value. I'm not gonna try to interpret outside of that. Moving on. Okay, next on the album is Like Crazy. Now, I wanna be lost in that thing. I don't know the lyric. Like Crazy does have a reference point. He said it is based, well, he felt like the song was based off the, kind of loosely, of a movie called Like Crazy as well, where a woman who is visiting the US falls in love with a British woman in the US on visa, falls in love with a US man, and she overstays her welcome and ends up being deported. And it talks about that, their relationship and what they went through. And trying to refer that back to Jimin, I think he's talking about breaking up with a part of himself that he isn't particularly proud of, but that is also a part of him. It's a part of who he is as a person, even if it's a version of yourself you don't like. So breaking up with yourself and changing yourself and trying to just be a better version of yourself is very, very difficult. And it's very heartbreaking because you have to face a version of yourself that you may not be particularly proud of. One of the things that I know that I struggle with is procrastination and laziness. Okay, and those things are very difficult to change about yourself because you have those urges to be whatever version of yourself that you're not proud of. And it's very difficult changing that and becoming a better person, becoming an adult, whatever. And I think that is how Jimin is seeing that movie and seeing this song as well. Based on, them saying that, hey, this album is about Jimin facing himself. So we have to take into an account that a lot of these songs are going to reference Jimin's own interpersonal struggles. So moving on to Alone. Day and night, da 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 da, oh, da 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 da. And I think Alone perfectly describes depression, and not depression disorder, but I think everyone at any point in their lives is going to go through a moment where they are depressed, where they're not happy, whether it be with their jobs, with their relationships, with their surroundings, with themselves. And I think it really describes perfectly of thinking that everyone else's life is perfect and you have to fake that you have this perfect life. And it's such an isolating feeling because you feel like no one else can understand you. But in reality, they probably can. Like, they probably can understand you as a person more than you think. Everyone goes through their own issues. Not so much as depression, but they go through their own issues. Not everyone's perfect. And we do go out in the world and we do put a smile on our face to pretend like everything is hunky-dory when it really isn't. So I really do think that he really was touching on just being alone, feeling depressed. Not saying he was, because he didn't say he was. I didn't see it, or if he did, he did. But I don't see anywhere where he did say that he was. I feel like it does touch a lot on those topics of sadness, loneliness, not liking yourself, not wanting to do anything, and turning to other things to help feel or fulfill that, which could be in some instance alcohol, drugs. Some people's depression manifests in shopping habits, all types of self-harm. Not all the time, but it can, So I think it really does touch on really those feelings of being alone and etc. Moving on to the next song on the album, which is Set Me Free.
Fuck all your ups, and I'm gonna be free.
And I think this is a perfect ending to the album itself, besides the unofficial official song, because it talks about just setting yourself free. Like he said he wants to set himself free. So set himself free from himself, basically. And he wanted to get out of that depressive state that he was in, where setting himself free from that version of himself that he wasn't particularly proud of, and flying into the unknown, which is very, very scary. He talks about being on the edge, and some people think about being on the edge as falling, but you could be on the edge of freedom and on the edge of a better version of yourself, and on the edge of discovery, on the edge of just the unknown. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a death or falling. It could also just be being on the edge of just living and being free from whatever you're trying to be free from. And I think Jimin, facing himself, was setting himself free from those negative thoughts he has had in his mind, and the way that he had been dealing with it and coping with it during the pandemic, and just, being a better him, and basically saying, hey, goodbye to the past me, goodbye to the past, moving forward. And like he said, like a butterfly, he flies, and he is set free from everything that he was going through. And I think it really is a good song to wrap up, talking about all these other different points of not being happy with yourself, not being happy with the version of yourself you're becoming, drinking, just everything. And I think it's a great, great song to end the album. Now, the official song that was on the album was Letter.
I'm not even going to attempt to voice over this. I'm just tired that I have to do this.
And I think this is basically towards ARMY. I think it's towards us, because I think during their darker hours, they do come to us as fans to help lift them out of those dark moods. And I think, even if it was unbeknownst to us, he may have used interacting with us, seeing us going online, seeing us talk about them, seeing us, just everything being an ARMY. And I think he really, that really helped him in his moments where he was feeling a bit down and a bit of a dark place. And I think it's just a letter to us stating that, hey, now he's going to try to give back as much as he can and be there for us. And so I think that with it being kind of unofficial song on the album, I really do think it was purely just for ARMY, and he didn't really want other people to get a hold of it. But which I love, is such a sweet sentiment. And he did a really good job. Now, on to my final thoughts of the album. I love it. I don't even need my notes for that. I love the album. I actually did a whole review of the album on my TikTok. You may have to scroll a little bit far because I do post like once a day. But I really do love this album. I love what it entails. I love the meaning. I love the sound of the music. Because just because they have a deep meaning doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna sonically, jive with it. If I had to say what my favorite song on the album is, it is Face Off. I freaking love that song. And a very, 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 very close second is like Set Me Free. You see how hard it is to figure out, but I really do love this album. I wish it was more concrete because I'm greedy and I want more songs from him, but I am so happy that he was able to express himself artistically. And that's something that I really do love about all of BTS's songs and all of their solo work so far, is that it really is showing their own individual style and sound. And I'm just really enjoying all of it. But that's about it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. I will be doing a review of Sugar's. Hopefully it will be out this Friday. I will be going to his concert next week. I'm so excited. But other than that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.
Put your body on the kitchen table and move the dishes to the side.